Earlier in the programme we were discussing the UK government's internet safety strategy, which will introduce a new code of practice covering social media platforms, an industry levy to help tackle online abuse, and a requirement for greater transparency from internet companies. But as well as cyber safety, cyber security has been grabbing headlines. Last year, the National Cyber Security Centre was created to protect the UK from online attacks. And its first year has been intense, with incidents affecting the NHS, businesses and even fears over the election. And its Chief Executive, Kieran Martin, told the BBC there could still be worse to come.
Of the 590 incidents we dealt with in our first year, the vast majority were Category 3, but there were several dozen Category 2 attacks. But we have yet to move to the full, what we call national emergency, where, for example, there may be a risk to life, where a hostile state may be launching a very, very serious attack. And we've always said that we can expect in the next few years a Category 1 attack.
And Category 1 attacks in this instance are classed as attacks to the democratic system or to critical national infrastructure like electricity or power supplies. Well, today the National Information Security Conference got underway in Glasgow. Alan Moffat is from cybersecurity firm Sapphire, which is hosting the conference, and he joins us now. What kind of scenarios are you looking at then?
It basically covers all aspects there, Vanny. And we've got speakers from Europol, from Scottish Police. We've also got retail, the banking fraternity. And we've also got psychologists there to see why people are more susceptible to being actually attacked through social engineering as well. So we're covering all aspects during the conference itself.
Do you think we've been pretty slow to wake up to all of this?
It varies in different things. People are starting to come through. We've got generations coming through now as the kids are becoming more familiar with internet-based phones and mobiles, etc. They're becoming more savvy, but I think business is still lacking behind. And I also do believe in certain aspects to it, the internet service providers have got a lot more to deal with things as well and bring us back up to more scratch.
So what can the providers do? Would this be in terms of the technology and blocking hacks?
Absolutely. And a number of changes are going to be happening over next year. The General Data Protection Regulation comes out on the 25th of May that brings personal data far more into the forefront. It brings on larger fines. At the moment, under the Data Protection Act, it's £500,000 that can be fined by the Information Commission Officer. As in next year, from the 25th of May, if there's a breach of personal data, that goes up to €20 million, or 4% of your global annual turnover. Along with that also comes out the Network Infrastructure Systems Directive that puts an onus and brings in line things like Google and all those kind of aspects and internet service providers to make sure that they are safe and protect our data accordingly.
So to make sure then that companies, even perhaps unwittingly, are not cavalier with our personal data?
Absolutely. And it's there to make sure that it's there for the appropriate purposes and the rights of the individual are maintained.
What about things like the NHS? I mean, we've seen a number of kind of problems with hacks there. How do you go about tackling that? Because funding would appear maybe to be an issue with that.
Again, if you look at the earlier this year when the WannaCry came out, the ransomware which blocked a number of older systems that were there that weren't patched. But the NHS was not, it got reported as NHS, but if you look at it, it was a global issue. It hit Telefónica in Spain, it hit Deutsche Bank, it hit car manufacturing, but we just happened to report an NHS, obviously because of the importance of it and around about it. But the NHS is a big beast in relation to the fact that it has to have open doors, it has to allow the public in, it has to allow consultants to manage these things. And again, they've got to be able to deal with some legacy systems along with, yes, absolutely, going through the current environment on the financial side as well.
It's not just criminals doing it to get money, really, is it? I mean, we also have kind of state-sponsored hacking to some level. You know, some of these big hacks that we heard about were pointed at North Korea, for instance. Pretty hard to fight against, you know, that kind of level of organisation.
Absolutely. And then when you start to look at foreign intelligence services putting attack onto these sustainable type attacks that come on, and if you look at things like WannaCry and the further type ransomware that came out, a lot of that actually came from allegedly the stolen spyware that came out of NSA earlier on in the year as well. So again, it's coming from all aspects. And if you also look at the Macron and the French election and all the emails and also what happened in the US, absolutely you can start to see attacks. And that's why it's not just a case of looking at cybercrime, but it's looking at cyber warfare as well. And it covers all aspects. Because if you're going to attack government bodies, you don't necessarily go straight for the core. You actually look at third-party suppliers. You look at other aspects and you look to see where the weakness in the chain is, and then you go through those attacks.
OK, well, thank you very much indeed for coming in this evening. That's Alan Moffat there from the cyber security firm Sapphire.